Hello, because we're in Calgary, Canada. These videos, of which I have several, will be forever known as the Calgary Talks. And I'm going to start by responding in the second installment of Questions Answered. I've been receiving lots of really good questions through the website about the Cello Talks, prompted by the Cello Talks. I can't answer all of them right here, but I'm going to answer a lot of them. First, I want to say that I received several really significant questions that deserve whole videos of their own. And I'll tell you what they are basically because they're very good. Someone asks here about the 4-minute timer and exactly how to use it, and could I show what might be done in 4 minutes. So I'm going to do one on a passage probably from a Beethoven sonata that shows exactly what I would do in those 4 minutes. Then there's a question about, I have several questions about playing fast. How do you practice slowly in order to be able to play fast? I'll give some examples of that. And then there's a question about stretching. And specifically, a cellist asks about fifth position here. 6. These positions, they're having trouble stretching 1, 2, 3, and ask whether the hand should pivot around or walk or whatever. This brings up a whole question of whether you shift, whether you stretch, whether you walk, how to do that. So I'm going to devote a whole video to that. But now on to the things that I can answer quickly. A lot of questions have come in about this bow that I purchased from the daughter of Valentin Berlinski, the former and late cellist of the Borodin Quartet. And somebody asks when this bow was made, and we believe it was made in about the 1940s because Berlinski bought it just after the war from the people who made the bow, which was a family called Morizot in France. It weighs 82 grams, and I've been asked if it has any special characteristics. Well, of course it has special characteristics. If it didn't, I wouldn't want to have it. But it's, if I could characterize it in words, it makes a kind of a light, silvery sound with a lot of high overtones. It's very, very pleasing to the ear. And it also has a great deal of good traction. In other words, if you pull it from the frog to the tip, it feels as though it grabs out here and has a kind of weight that just hugs the string. And that's a wonderful thing for sustaining sound. I don't know what it is about the physics of a bow that make it do that, but when you have that feeling of sustaining to the tip, it's a really great thing. I've been asked if I'm going to use this bow as my main bow. That's kind of a private question, but not really. I mean, I have several bows, and I like to switch them around. I don't switch cellos very often, but I switch bows. I believe in keeping myself fresh and adapting to things, and you'll see that in a coming video called Adapt. Yes, I mean, I love and I use this bow, but I'm not married to it. We're just living together. Anyway, I've been asked what instruments are used by my quartet, the Emerson Quartet. That's easy to say. 3 of us are using instruments by Sam Zygmuntovich, as is this cello, which was made for me, completed in 1993. It's the first instrument used in the Emerson Quartet by Sam Zygmuntovich, who's a great, great maker from Brooklyn, New York. Not long after, Philip Setzer, a violinist, commissioned an instrument which he uses now. 7 years ago, Lawrence Dutton, a violist, commissioned a viola which he uses now exclusively. And Gene Drucker also has a Zygmuntovich violin, but he often prefers his Strad, but I never quite know which fiddle he'll show up with. So there are times when the Emerson Quartet plays on 4 Zygmuntovich instruments. I was also asked about what instruments the Borodin Quartet uses, and I don't know. All I do know is that Valentin Berlinski did not own his own cello. It was owned by the state. And so when he died, it went back to the state, and this is the only physical remembrance of his playing equipment. Is there a difference between Mongolian horsehair and standard horsehair? I don't know. I don't think so. As far as I know, what comes out of the back of a horse is pretty much the same from horse to horse, but there may be a difference. All I know is that there is good hair and bad hair, and when you get a great bow rehair and somebody has found good hair trust them and let them deal with the naming. What kind of alcohol can I use? Well, I use any kind of alcohol I can get my hands on, and I use it only to clean the fingerboard and the strings. You never use it to clean the body of the instrument. But I'm not a chemist, and maybe it's bad for it if you don't use denatured alcohol, but I've used denatured alcohol, other kinds of alcohol all my life. Nothing bad ever came from it for me. I'm using a soft cloth to get the rosin off the strings. Is that fine? No, it's not fine. It's not strong enough. The rosin gets caked on, and you need the scrubber to really dig in and get the caked rosin off the playing area. Wouldn't the scrub to clean the strings wear out the strings much faster? Well, I'm really not sure. I've never seen that they've worn out my strings. If anything, it seems to make them last longer because they're always fresher. Now, on to some playing questions. Somebody is asking for me to teach how to do staccato. I assume up bow and down bow staccato. I'm not the one to try to tell you how to do that because I don't do it very easily. I know people who do it very easily and very naturally without even practicing it. But I know that some seasons ago, it took me a full year to get ready to play the second of the Rococo variations with the long staccato scales so that I could really do it. It took me a year to get that ready. It's not my natural thing. I would hesitate to recommend to anybody how to do it. So find somebody who can do it pretty well and who can explain it, and then you'll have your answers. Vibrato of the thumb. How do you vibrate on the thumb? Well, this is another thing I don't do very well. I've never been able to make a good sound on the thumb, vibrating. It always sounds to me kind of like a goat. So I don't do it. I use another finger, or I'd rather not hear any vibrato at all than that. So, once again, maybe somebody else can make a beautiful vibrato on the thumb. I can't. Now, issues with fingering. And this is in response to the vibrato width video. I think it was number 20. Somebody's asking about using the flat of the fingers as opposed to the tips. Well, the tips, of course, will give you that hammered finger articulation in a way that the flat will not give you. When you need to have left-hand articulation, it's probably better to be up on the tips. However, for a juicy sound, for a broad vibrato, you have to have enough flesh on the string. So, there's a couple ways to do that. Just to recap, one of them is you can turn the hand, you can stay on the tip, but turn the hand so it's angled, as we just did in a recent video, rather than this. And you can also lower the arm, pull the thumb around, and by doing that, you approximate the flat finger, but you're still curved. But some people do play with absolutely flat fingers, and it sounds beautiful. It's just that when you need really, really tough left-hand articulation, you have to go up into the arched position.